guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is an entitled people story. Living near a university town can be quite an adventure. You never know what you might encounter on a daily basis. For me, it was the group of Albanians who resided in the house near mine. It was a strange situation. There were always people coming in and out of the house, and we could hear loud music at all hours of the day and night. The man who lived there was called Arbnor, and he was the one who caused most of the problems. He would blast Albanian rap music at 3 a.m., and we would ask him to stop, but he never did. It was quite frustrating because it was impossible to sleep. Moreover, they would throw wild parties frequently, and their Albanian buddies would block my parking space, which prevented me from going to school and work. It was a constant source of annoyance. One night, things got even worse. It was a wild party, and all of a sudden, a small fire started. It could have spread quickly, but luckily, my roommate had a fire extinguisher and was able to put it out. The party-goers were completely oblivious to what was happening and didn't even realize that there was a fire. We were lucky that it didn't turn into a major disaster. However, that wasn't the end of the bizarre incidents. One day, we woke up to find our fences covered in condoms filled with ketchup and burnt Barbie doll heads on sticks. It was a disturbing sight, and we didn't know what to make of it. It was obvious that these guys were extremely nationalistic, and they would wave around Greater Albanian flags and harass my Serbian friend for nothing other than being Serbian. They had covered up every street sign and flagpole with Greater Albanian leaflets and even painted the sidewalks with Albanian flags. It was a clear indication of their intentions. We were at our wits' end and didn't know what to do. We thought about reporting them to the university, but we knew that it would be a long and painstaking process that would result in no action. That's when we decided to report them to the immigration authorities. We knew that at least 2 of them were illegal immigrants because they bragged about how easy it was to get here. I called the immigration authority and made an anonymous report for suspected illegal immigrants. It turned out that 4 out of the 6 residents, but not Arbnor, were illegal immigrants. All 4 of them were banned from ever entering my country again and lost their ability to study at the university. They also had all their items confiscated. The news came as a surprise to us. We didn't expect the authorities to take such drastic action. It was a relief to know that justice had been served, but we couldn't help feeling a little sorry for them. As for Arbnor, he couldn't afford to continue paying for the house, so he ended up selling it to some rich Romanian. It was a relief to see him go, and the new owner was much better. He was rarely ever here, and when he was pretty chill. The next story is titled, "We Should Build Cheaper Industrial Control Systems." By using consumer-grade components. What could go wrong? There's a phrase of, knowing just enough to be dangerous. That happened with a relatively new division manager. He came from a company where they used relatively simple automation and lots of human labor, to a highly automated place. Initially I had high hopes as the manager went out their way to ask engineers and technicians to explain what is going on. After that several weeks of the manager figuring out their first steps, they settled on a genius idea. Instead of paying massive figures of money to industrial automation vendors and their equally expensive components, then waiting for weeks or months because many of those stuff were constantly back-ordered, why not use PCs, Arduinos, Raspberry Pis, and other consumer hardware to manage the production processes? It's just as safe as using a consumer PC to run a Boeing 737 MAX's flight controls. After all, Windows never forced a restart for an update, and consumer SSDs, HDDs can be trusted with years of continuous error-free operation, right? His goal was to get a new production line built faster and cheaper, as it was previously stalled hard from vendors not having the necessary components and telling us, "We'll ship it when we get one." Thankfully he had enough caution to ask for a demonstration system to be built in parallel with the ongoing new production line design, so that even if the demo system failed, the main project was unaffected. The malicious compliance from many technicians and engineers when designing and building the consumer-grade industrial control system was: ignore effects of temperature, humidity and other environmental factors. Ignore vibration. Ignore electromagnetic interference. I had a good laugh when I saw a technician set up a mini PC right between two 480 volts 3-phase motors. Ignore dirty power, e.g. hooking up a Raspberry Pi to a dirty 120-volt circuit. Because the objective is a cheap control system, unshielded copper-clad aluminum Ethernet cables were ordered and used. I'll let the IT folks explain why that is a bad idea. Pretend to not know how to program consumer hardware or lift a finger with trying to learn how to use them, while demanding the company to pay for expensive, formal training courses, which management predictably hated that idea. For those that actually program said hardware, put heavy, time-sensitive loads on the consumer hardware. Proper industrial controller devices are specifically designed to consistently complete their programmed tasks at every 10 milliseconds or whatever cycle time was set for them. Failure to complete tasks within the cycle time is unacceptable, as it could lead to industrial processes going horribly wrong, such as a transfer mechanism trying to move when the clamping mechanism hasn't secured yet, resulting in a 60 pounds metal part being yeeted into the air. Expecting Windows or Raspberry Pi to always finish their assigned tasks within 10 milliseconds is playing with fire. For the safety testing, see above. Ignoring failed safety tests for a new production line is a quick way to be asked to leave the company, and the manager wasn't stupid enough to pressure us to pencil whip the safety tests. Speaking of safety, there was a requirement for in the event of a fault, the system has to safely handle it. Or the company's liability insurance would be voided, and the company would get to eat the full workers' compensation and legal costs of someone being injured, killed. It was predictably a nightmare to design the industrial system to safely tolerate consumer hardware failures. Many industrial system peripherals were designed for compatibility with specific industrial controllers, which meant additional engineering work was required to make those peripherals compatible with the consumer hardware. Industrial vendors refused to help. Use these programmable logic controller models. We don't support Arduino. Ticket closed. The staff at the company would not do it themselves without formalized project plans, which further added to the costs and delays. Another manager threw a fit when they learned that the demo system couldn't accept live programming changes and thus required downtime to make logic changes, and insisted that feature has to be implemented at any cost because they hated downtime, which we never got around to that feature request. Programmable logic controllers allow the programs to be edited and uploaded while still running for zero downtime. Part of the reason why the vendors charged so much is for their support. Anything that went wrong with the consumer hardware, we were on our own. Compared to the industrial vendors who would fly technicians to our site for troubleshooting. Speaking of downtime, it is not uncommon for industrial systems to have uptime in the span of +5 years and sometimes about a decade. Turning them off and back on can be highly risky because sometimes things break as a result of the power cycling. I would not trust consumer hardware to have that same level of uptime without running into an error. Someone lost a chunk of the programming for an Arduino. Normally for programmable logic controllers, you can download their logic in the comments, if the previous programmers used them, if you lost your original copy. Recovering a running logic from Arduino in a human-readable format was a very different story. The end result was a very delayed project because a few people were working on it after management refused to pay for formal C++ programming for Windows, Arduino, Raspberry Pi and etc. Training courses, and the thing never quite worked right. One day the division manager ordered the abomination to be scrapped and tossed into the trash. The next story is entitled Mom is very upset that store owner spoke to her son about the board games he was throwing on the floor. This was a review left for one of my local gaming tabletop stores. Store has been open less than a year with over 100 5-star reviews raving about the owners and store alike. Elizabeth, 2/5 stars. We went in with our 3 kids to look for a new game to add to our collection. The selection they have is amazing and well curated with games and accessories for everyone. My apprehension for going back is I don't feel like my kids were welcome there. I have a 3-year-old and he acts like one. While there I had to talk to him quite a few times to keep his hands to himself. I tried to always keep my eyes on him and stay near him, but again, kids will be kids. After a bit, we were asked by a retailer to make sure our son insert name of son here, which they called him by his name because we obviously had been telling him not to touch things, kept his hands off the merchandise. I understand the need to have merchandise that isn't broken or opened, and I made sure that didn't happen. He was touching things and even knocked some puzzles and games off their displays, but he didn't rip anything open, he didn't throw anything on the ground, he didn't break anything, he was just a curious kid who was perhaps a bit bored. It's hard at the best of times to shop with children, but to be made to feel like you aren't doing enough or trying hard enough to look after your children doesn't make you feel welcome or wanted. We went in planning on purchasing a board game but left soon after the encounter because of how we were made to feel. My question is, do they have children? Have they raised a child themselves? It's not as easy as you might think to get kids to listen, especially when they are young. Response from the owner a month ago. Elizabeth, we put tremendous effort into making store a welcome haven for gamers of many ages and interests, and I'm sorry we fell short of that mark for you during the approximately 50 minutes you and your family spent here. I don't think this is the proper forum or to anyone's benefit to detail why I felt the need to politely address with you the behaviors that were exhibited at the store. I will just point readers to our other reviews and encourage them and their families to visit and decide for themselves. Respectfully, owner of store. I agree with the owner that Elizabeth's review says more about her than it does about the store owner. The next story is titled, I'm not paying by cash or card. Backstory is, I work at an Australian grocery store and have done so for 9 years. So, I was recently working in our self-serve area, guiding people where to go and whatnot, and some machines had issues so that they were only taking card transactions, since they didn't have enough cash in them to give change without issues. Since it's a busy day, customers are coming through, noticing it's crowded, and queuing at the beginning of the area. That's fine, I use that as an opportunity to catch them and ask, are you paying by cash or card today? In order to direct them to the right area. For the most part, it's fine, until one future wrestling star barges past the line and doesn't see an empty spot. I tell him to go back to the queue since people are waiting, and he does, mumbling under his breath. As it comes to be his turn, I ask if he's paying by cash or card. His response is one I've not heard before. Neither, he spits at me. I'm half considering calling security by this point, but I give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm sorry? Will you be using the cash or card facilities today? Neither mate. Geez, I'm paying with coin. What are you, thick? In addition to being shocked by his attitude, it took me a while to realize what the heck he just said. Sure, I get that most people equate cash with good old-fashioned folding money. But how do you enter your adult years without realizing that coins, and any other form of physical currency, is cash? The next story is titled Fussy Guest Demands Discount for Lack of Parking. I maliciously comply. On sold-out weekends, our already limited parking becomes even more limited. Guest and her husband arrive early evening. Car park is already full, so they park in front of the front door to check in, blocking other vehicles in. Check-in is non-eventful. I rattle of my spiel and hand the guest her keys. Guest walks off, then stops all of a sudden. As she turns to face me again, I know that she is about to complain about something. We all know the pose. Eyes widen as they ready themselves to plead their case as the point and wiggle their index finger in the air at shoulder height. Game on. Guest. You need more parking spots, there is not enough for 40 rooms. Your car park is already full. I reserved a space. Me. I'm sorry ma'am, but our parking is on a first-come, first-served basis. We do not reserve spaces. If the car park is full, all of the on-street parking is free. Her. Well, there should be 40 spaces for all 40 rooms. Side note. We have 12 spaces at the front of our property which stretches from the street to our front entrance. Local council regulations state that we only need 1 space per 4 rooms. We beat those regs by 2. Me. I understand your frustrations, Mrs. Nitpicker, but our plans to construct an underground parking garage has been delayed due to the COVID-induced shovel shortage. Not a shovel to be found within 100 km. It should be dug out and fully operational by the time our city hosts the Olympics in 2032 though. Her. You should extend your car park until then so everyone room has an assigned space. I think we should be given a discount for no parking. Me. The owner did consider just knocking this place down completely and making it into a public car park, but then he realized that we would have no rooms left for our guests which would lower our property rating, so we decided to keep things as they are for the time being. Her. And the discount I asked for? I type away furiously, whilst umming and ahing for dramatic effect. Me. I have applied the discount to your folio. I have calculated the total amount it will cost you to park on the street for your 7 days stay and have deducted that amount from your bill. Is there anything else I can help you with, ma'am? Her. Huffs and gives me a smug smile. Well, I should think so. Guest walks off. As I stated earlier, street parking is free 24/7. Her total discount was $0. She never noticed. The next story is titled Finally Went Off on Customer, and Totally Got Away with It. So, I work part-time at a convenience store while going to college on my GI Bill. Really, it's just to keep me busy while I'm not in school or gaming. We recently had 2 people quit, so my part-time hours for the last couple weeks have been full-time. Stretched between full-time school, full-time work and full-time gaming, my days have been much more stressful than normal, and today I got a Karen in line. Behind her is a regular customer who I've waited on a million times. I was ringing her up, and she had too many items for our bag carousel, so I had to put some off to the side. When she turned it to begin picking up her bags, some fell over onto the ground. I go to pick them up, but that's not enough for her. She demands that I give them to her for free, which I can't, because I dropped paper towel and napkins. I explain I can't, since nothing broke, and she goes off on tangent about how I was rude, threw her stuff on the ground, and this is why I'm clerking in a store and don't have a real job. I look around and see no one else around besides my regular, so I lean in real close and go, "Hey lady, you're a bit of an idiot. Just so you know." She's flabbergasted, starts yelling and screaming for my manager, so I call him up. He listens and then asks me what happened. I tell him she began yelling, so I told her she was being rude, and never called her an idiot. My manager says he knows me personally and knows I would never do that. She points to the regular behind her and tells my manager that he heard it. The regular goes, "Void Jaunt didn't say anything like that, this lady is nuts." So, my manager tells her that since her transaction is over she has to leave. Shaw's red in the face at this point and storms outside, saying she's going to fix my ass. I watch her go outside to make sure she isn't coming back with a gun or anything, but now she's screaming at her husband in her car. He comes in after a minute or so and apologizes to me, and says he knows how she can get, and I should just ignore her. He apologizes for the trouble again and they leave. It's been the best day of my retail life. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.